What up YouTube, Bonsai here, back with another video. So yeah, this is just going to be a quick sort of mini rant explainer video where I just sort of noticed something in the zeitgeist about the specifically Arlong in the live action One Piece, and I kind of wanted to sort of make a video about it, just briefly talking about it, not a long one. And so this sort of came up when I was watching a reaction to episode 6 of the live action One Piece by the Real Rich Rejects, and at a certain point in the video they mentioned two things that I just wanted to go over. So one was like part of like the obvious allegorical similarities between Arlong and having a black actor play him in that role, and you know the similarities between that and racism and all that. And then the second one was to do with like Ussop being like out of all of the Straw Hats, he was the one that got like the least screen time and the least development out of all of them. And so I just kind of wanted to put my sort of opinion out there about those two things. So firstly, let's talking about Arlong. And so like, you know, they picked a black actor to play Arlong, and then throughout the show they sort of heavily leaned into like the racism allegory and stuff like that. And so I guess specifically out there for new fans, y'all might be wondering, let's especially just address this for the perspective of new fans. So you might be wondering, you know, like, where does this come from? Is this really something that was in the manga? And you know, if you don't mind spoilers, yes, it is actually in the manga. But funnily enough, when they did it the first time in the anime, when I first came across it, I actually had no idea. So Oda did it in such a way where, I was a kid at this time, right? So I wasn't really a kid, but I was less politically aware at the time I was watching this. And so when I first watched it, it actually completely flew over my head that there were some little hints and details in there about the fishman's, Arlong's anger stemming from a place of like, his people were oppressed at one point, and then because of that he's lashing out. And he mentioned some lines there, but at the time when I first watched it, I was someone I wasn't anywhere really like politically aware and stuff like that, so it went over my head completely. I had no idea there were like racism allegories, and it was only like 5 years later when you get to Sabori Park and the Fishman Islands that you actually like realize that, oh, well, like Arlong was basically doing everything he was because of like his people were oppressed at one point. And it's just like, again, goes to show like Oda being one of the best foreshadowers in like basically in human history, like him writing this story years ago, and then like I can't remember how many episodes later, when you get to Sabori, you finally realize, oh shit, so that's why that Arlong dude was so mad at humans and had such a hatred for humans. It came from something. It completely retextualized one of the first major villains, you know, like hundreds of episodes later. So yeah, I'd say it was a great thing, like, you know, just showcasing Ichiro Oda as a great writer. And in terms of them, the way they did it in the show, they made it way more obvious, which at this time I'm kind of okay with, but yeah, I don't know, I feel like it was a bit on the nose too at some points, but I was okay with it. But that's not the main reason I wanted to speak about Arlong. The main reason was, so Arlong, you know, them picking a black actor to play him. That was the question that was asked in the Real Rejects video. And when I was thinking about that question, it appeared to me too. It's like, yeah, why did they pick a black guy, right? Why couldn't they pick any other race? Was it a deliberate reason? And if it was a deliberate reason, no, that's a bad thing, right? So under most circumstances, my answer to this question is yes, that is a bad thing for them to sort of typecast and do that, sort of. At the end of the day, like, the most important thing is like, you know, the actor's performance. But then I sort of thought about it for a moment, and then it kind of occurred to me that like, so in a way so like, if you're thinking about actors who can more accurately, like when it comes to acting, usually you have to like tap, I don't know shit, but just from what I've seen, they say that you have to like tap into some sort of real emotions and stuff like that and bring it out, like let that inform your portrayal. And so given a lot of the stuff that's going in the US with like the history of racism and stuff like in the US, and I guess maybe even today they still argue a lot about it, it makes sense to me why you would pick a black actor to play a character like Arlong, who's coming from a place of like hatred with racism and stuff like that, and like he's lashing out against, you know, the people who were so cruel to his people at one point in the past. Like, it makes sense why you would pick someone who is black to portray that role, because this is an actor who would be drawing from a very real place, depending on their experience with it, and they'd be able to, more accurately fulfill that role. And so that's why when I thought about it in that way, I kind of was like, okay, yeah, maybe who's to say a white actor or an Asian actor who's particularly talented could have done a better job or not, but it makes sense to me that if it was a race casting thing or something, typecasting or something like that, it makes sense to me why it would happen. And if you think about it, yeah, like I said, because of the history and stuff like that, it would make sense that African Americans particularly would have a strong affinity to play characters who were at least to have a history of racism against their people. So that's why when I was thinking about it in that way, after thinking about it in my head when I saw that Real Reject, he asked the question, I was like, okay, it makes sense to me why you would pick a black actor. So in conclusion, if they had deliberately decided to pick a black actor to play this role and been no whites or Asians, that's still a bad thing, objectively speaking, because at the end of the day, you do want to pick the best actor to portray the role, right? But if they were looking for a black actor because they, with everything I said in mind, it makes sense. Not that I'm saying they did. Who knows? Maybe they really did just pick him just because he was black and didn't really put as much thought into it as I have. But yeah, I guess it's kind of in defense of that decision, I would say, as to why the actor, not necessarily had to be black, but why it makes sense that it's a black actor who wound up getting the role, because out of all the actors who might have applied, most likely the ones with, African American heritage would have that history to draw on to inform their role. So that's out of the way. And as far as Usopp's going, it's not too much of a big thing that I wanted to say, but basically, out of all the Straw Hats, Usopp got the least development and the least character moments. And in the Real Rejects video too, they mentioned that they feel like out of all of the characters, they don't know what Usopp's role is. And yeah, that makes sense. He hasn't had that much time to shine. I think even his final battle too at the end was kind of underwhelming. I wanted to see him, Sanji and Zoro got a lot of moments. They should have had a few moments of Usopp sniping from the back and saving, helping at least Sanji and Zoro, shooting someone while they were busy fighting someone, doing what a sniper usually does. I would have wanted at least a few scenes of that, and then after that he could run away and defeat the other guy by himself. So yeah, I think they should have done that. That would have helped to solidify Usopp's place in the crew, and him not getting as much character development is a bad thing objectively, and I agree and affirm what the two guys in Real Reject were saying. But for me, as someone who knows the anime, I know one thing that sort of calmed me down was the fact that, so minor spoiler here, if you recall the story, out of all of the Straw Hat characters, I think Usopp is the one who has, out of the ones that we've already been introduced to, he's the one who, within the next few arcs that are coming up, he gets a very good chance to have his character explored a lot more deeply and flesh him out a lot more when they get to Middle Garden. I think that's what it's called, with the two and stuff like that. So that's going to play a big part into, fleshing out Usopp's character and stuff. And so that's why, after thinking about that aspect of it, I was okay why, out of all of these characters, the black guy seems to get the short end of the stick. Once again, coming back to this whole thing about racism, whatever. I don't necessarily think I need to say any of this, but I don't know. Part of the reason I'm doing this is because I was supposed to have another video out this week, but I'm postponing it back because I didn't have enough time to edit it. So that's why I'm just giving this rant, just so I have some content for this week. So yeah, Usopp basically being, put on the sidelines. I think it makes sense logically, because if you think about it from a story point of view, he's the one, out of all of the guys that we've met, he's the one that would get a second chance to have his character more properly fleshed out. So that's why it makes sense to me that, in order to account for the lack of episodes, they sacrificed on him a little. So yeah, that's just about it. That's just my random filler rant, I guess I should say, because like I said, I had another video planned, but I couldn't work on it this weekend. So yeah, please leave it down in the comments if you agree with what I say or have some critiques to add to it or disagree with me completely. I'm more than happy to hear any differing opinions. And thank you very much for watching this video if you watched it. Subscribe to my channel. I will have at least one more analysis video on One Piece in the future next week. And yeah, I'm just gonna end this now. This is Bonsai signing out. Catch you all later.